Now is getting ready to go to Date Watchers, and we're going to take a look at this post. So I'm just now publishing it, and let's talk a little bit about this. Do you notice up above there, there's the symbol for phi and the symbol for pi. Let's call them phi and pi. And look, there is a relationship between phi and pi, because when you take 6/5 of phi and you square it, or maybe it's phi squared times 6/5, you're going to be within a 99.9985% accuracy of pi. Now that's remarkable, and that's why these posts, when we see them on Date Watchers, generally by Dan Madsen, these posts are fascinating because they have these remarkable irrational numbers in them, and we find them throughout creation. And so that's why we get excited about phi and pi here on Date Watchers. Let me take you down through this. As you can see, phi and pi are related. Anyway, let's talk about phi a little bit right here and look at this formula. Notice, when you're looking at phi, what you're doing is you're looking at A and B, add them together. That's our large integer. We see this usually as a day count on in charts on Date Watchers, but there's a particular relationship. In other words, A has a particular percentage relationship, if you will, to A plus B. And what we find is that B has that same, or A has that same percentage relationship to B that AB does to A. Now, that just means that you can keep doing that. We can find the phi relationship of A, and it's going to be about right here, and then you take the other big one. You can keep on doing that all the way down to infinity almost. But the point is this: that relationship, it shows up in creation so much. Let me read. God is the creator. If we see phi indicated in creation, it should lead us to understand that certainly when we see this phi pattern in any part of his creation, or even in a one-dimensional representation of his story, we are encouraged. What's a one-dimensional representation of his story? It's a line. That's what it is. And those are the lines we see on Dan Madsen's chart. So in any event, let me take you through this. I don't know if I should do this because I don't think you would be able to hear the sound if I played it, but you should take the time. It's like 4 minutes. Put it on double speed. There's no sound, but play this little video on the golden ratio on this phi, and you'll see why on Date Watchers we kind of have what I call a theistocracy, if you will. So let's see how this works in a regular chart. All right, we're going to talk about those relationships just to explain how it works. So take a look at this chart. Note the total day count interval from Fiji, 8.2. I mean, that's a huge earthquake down here. Look where my mouse is. There's a 8.2. That occurred on 8/19. And so when we see a chart like this where it shows that there is some, what I call, I don't know, divine markings of this date line, because you have a 204 day divine interval, and you have pi here, but look right here, this top line, you have 126 and 78, because that whole relationship, 204, remember, is A plus B, and now that 126 is A and the 78 is B, and there is a formula that we use to figure that out. And the formula, by the way, is very similar to this one. Notice the similar for determining where pi is on a total 204 day divine interval. Well, you divide by pi. Well, guess what? Let's look at phi here. That 204 days, Instead of dividing 204 by pi, we divide 204 by phi, and that's where we get the 126. So let me just read right here. Any divine interval can be analyzed by looking for some kind of event or occasion on the dates that are in phi relationship to the larger divine interval. The larger divine interval is 204. After 126, that's phi. You look, did something happen there to indicate that this day count has God's fingers on it? You can see that 204, this part of it, I just picked it out of this chart that I modified a little bit because I showed you how we calculate phi. When we calculate pi, it's 204 divided by pi. When we calculate the phi relationship, it's 204 divided by phi, that's 1.618, and what happens in this particular situation is we get this calculation and it comes to 126. Let me show you. I'll show you. Just let me see if I can do this. I'm going to do this. Let's do a little calculator here, all right? Calculator. Boom. Oh, here we go. Here's a little calculator. So we're going to do 204, and then we're going to divide by pi, which is 1.618, and we get, look at that, 126.08. So it's right there, right at 126 days, and that's where we go to find this out. So anyway, let's go back here. So remember, this is how we got the 126. We took 204, that was the total length. We divided it by phi, and we get 126. And that tells us that there's a 78 there as well. But what is interesting on this chart, and God does this occasionally, not every time, but he'll do it occasionally, and so we get after 78 days right here, there was Rainbow Day. This is the day of getting off the ark, all right? And then we got a phi relationship right here. That's the 12/22/18 son of Krakatoa tsunami. Remember that one? This is a fearful sight, ladies and gentlemen. We saw the video of that band playing when that tsunami came and wiped them out, killed people right there who were listening to that music. And remember the name of the band. Naturally, it was 17. So anyway, this is how this works. Now listen. Let's just go, make sure you understand it. We're going to plug these dates into this formula right here, right? This is our formula for phi. A plus B was 204. We divided it by phi. We came to A equals 126, B equals 78. So there's your phi relationship right there. And that's what's so amazing. That's what we see this, and when God does that with his own timing of certain things, I got to tell you, it's pretty remarkable to see those things. Appreciate Dan Madsen for having such an eye for that. All right, and of course, if God had a huge event every day, so it wouldn't mean anything, but he doesn't have these events every day. He spreads them out, and then he essentially signs them by either having a phi or a pi relationship. I always say phi. I don't know. Is it phi? I don't know. Phi. Anyway, I'm going to stick with phi. All right, so anyway, this is, by the way, the golden spiral. It's all related to phi as well, or related to phi. But here's the way it's related, because this is a two-dimensional, right here is a two-dimensional representation of how phi works. But when we take a look at the lines, we find that we got this 204, then we got the 78, then we got the 126. That's what we're seeing. This is it in one dimension, this is it in two dimensions. See, here's a one-dimensional representation of phi with a divine interval of 204. Right here. There you go. It's one-dimensional. And then we can find these relationships as well, and it's one-dimensional. It's all right here as well, even though this is a two-dimensional representation, but we can see them here. The one-dimensional, it corresponds to the vertical limits. This is why Dan Madsen is always interested in vertical lines on his charts, because they represent these phi relationships as we go along. Now listen, I want you to understand this, because there's some really incredible things about this idea that shows up in history. And one of the guys where I first understood this, and this was years ago, was with charts by Louis Vega. And I want to show you some of the amazing things that he has done with regards to charts of biblical history. Are you ready? This is incredible if you can handle this. The following chart is the first chart I ever saw where someone had overlaid the golden spiral over what I believed was the best history of time that I had ever seen. First, we're going to look at things like rescues, all right? We're going to look at a sin rescue, a flood rescue, a faith rescue, a harpazo rescue, all right? These are all times in history where God has rescued. So let's look at this chart. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. Can I make it bigger? Let's try this. Boom. Boom, boom. All right. All right, take a look at this chart. So if you can see just barely, you can make out this red right there. Remember, we're going to look at a sin rescue, a flood rescue, a faith rescue, a harpazo rescue. And so what we have with this chart is the golden spiral, and we start here with Noah. And then that spiral, oh my gosh, it's right there in between Abraham. He's our father in faith. There's another vertical line right there. And then we come over and there's another vertical line. Guess what? That's where Adam is. And then this red line continues all the way over to where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. So what I want to show you is that on this red line, there's vertical lines and they are going to represent things. Here was a sin rescue with Adam and Eve, rescued from sin in the garden by the blood that flowed, and they were covered in the garden with the skins of those animals. And remember, the reason that Adam and Eve wanted garments was to not let God know that they'd started fading, because probably they glowed with righteousness at the time they were created. They were beautiful. So there's your sin rescue. And then we come over here. What do we have with Noah? We have a flood rescue. And then what do we have at this vertical line? Well, it's a faith rescue, because Abraham is our father in faith. He's the one that obeyed God and left his family and went to the land that God had promised. So that was a promise of faith. Abraham took it. He becomes the one that teaches us about faith, essentially for all time, because all children of faith are children of Abraham. And then we have a harpazo rescue, because look what happens all the way we curve over here and it comes. We're now in the 6,000th year of history. Hey, let's look and see how many years back we go to. Let's say this right here, because we're going to go and try and find the phi relationship. This goes back 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 3,500, 3,600. We're 3,700 years back from here, all right? So let's see if we can multiply. Let's try this, all right? We're going to take a look at a calculator again. Boom, calculator. Come on, calculator. All right, here we are. Let's clear this. We're going to take 6,000 years, and then we're going to divide by phi, which is 1.618. How many years we get? Oh, 3,708. Do you need to go back? Let's go back and look. 3,708, and that's what we said. It went back 1, 2, 3,000, 3,500, 3,600, 3,000. We're right there, folks. I don't know how big how thick of a line God uses. I mean, you can make this really narrow and try to get really specific, but the point is, these are just relationships where we see there's something valuable in this 6,000 years. God is looking at phi. For some reason in creation, he uses phi. Don't know why. He does. Look at this. This is even better. So I want you to look, let me see, this chart comes down to, oh, here's another one. Oh, it's the same idea, but I wanted to show you something about raptures. All right, so let me see. I love this one right here. Jesus was essentially someone who was not so much a rapture, okay? He ascended. It wasn't like a grabbing, but he went up, all right? So let's just say we got pictures of people going up, all right? And then we go back in history here. We go back to, oh my gosh, there's Elijah. There's another person who went up, and then this phi structure comes around and we come to, oh my gosh, who else is going to be going up? Well, the church is. And so anyway, we see this phi relationship in raptures as well. Here's a blown up portion of that first chart by Louis Vega. I just want to show you another phi proportion from Abram, the one called to show faith, to Moses, the one called to lead, to Jesus, the one called to save. Look at this. We have this period of time right here where we have Moses, we have Abram over on this side, and then we have Jesus. Moses called to lead. And then we have a relationship to Abram. He was called to show faith. And then we have Jesus who's called to save. These few relationships are there, and they occur over and over again. Here's another fee relationship between those lifted by God, lifted by water, lifted by faith. All right, and this is the blue one. Lifted by God, Enoch. In fee relationship with Abram, lifted in faith. In fee relationship with Noah, lifted by water. Oh my gosh, this is just, it goes on over and over again when you see the fee relationship that exists in his story. Well, you can go on from there, folks, and really get blessed. Let me just read this and finish this off right now. So hopefully now, saints, you understand why date watchers get fee-reeky when we are seeing fee in these one-dimensional representations of his story. Fee's all over the place. You need to do your own searching around. And sorry, I assume since you are reading this, you have access to a search engine that can get you to fee in DNA, or fee in nature, or fee in music, or fee in bone structure. Start with those. You'll agree from then on that fee truly is the signature of God. And sorry if you don't have a search engine available and you can't figure this stuff out on your own. Let me tell you something, folks. If you can't figure this out now, there will be wonders ahead of time, because it's going to be wonderful to see. All right, now in part 2, I'll do this again, assuming that this one works. We'll explore pi and the meaning of the words suggested alphabetically by the day length of these divine intervals, especially the ones that are highlighted by phi or by pi. All right, folks, this was my first one. I don't know if this works. Blessings, saints. Soon will rise and shine. I don't know, did that stop it? Good grief, I can't even tell if it's going anymore. What's happening here?